Hi, this is Lisa Medved, and this is my Module 8 case study for Get This Child Out of My Classroom. In this case study, a classroom teacher is struggling with the escalating behavior of one of her students and is seeking his removal through the special education teacher. So, the first part of this case study is problem identification and analysis. So there's quite a few things that I do know. I do know that Miss Green is a first-year teacher at this school, rural school district. I know that third grade student Carl is in Miss Taylor's class, and he is currently on an IEP for behavior disorder. He has a behavior plan already in place for his prior self-abusive behavior, but that his behavior is escalating due to his parents' recent divorce, and he has started to show aggression towards Miss Taylor and yelling at and disrupting fellow classmates. Miss Taylor wants him out of her classroom, and Miss Green has consulted with the superintendent of the district and has written a new behavior plan for him, which includes him being removed from the classroom when he becomes aggressive. So there's a few things I need to find out. The resources in this district seem to be limited because it's a rural district. They've sort of pooled their resources. So I don't know what's available for him, for Carl, as far as an intervention or resources. Are there is there anyone that can work with him when he gets pulled out? Are there any other strategies besides just a pullout that could be used for his aggressive behavior? I'm not a school psychologist, so I don't know. But are there any other things that Ms. Taylor could do? And also, what training has she had? Ms. Taylor had regarding behavior disorders, and is there any available for her? So the problem I see is that Carl's behavior is escalating and he is becoming more aggressive. So we need to figure out how to help this behavior and eventually how to prevent it. Carl's new intervention plan requires that he leaves the room. I'm curious as to where he will go and what he will do during that time. Is there anyone that will work with him? Is Miss Green going to have a class for students? Since this isn't a scheduled time out, so that's a problem. Ms. Taylor is having difficulty with this, so I would like to educate her a bit more on the IEP process and Carl's situation in specifically, but also I'd like to help her to understand behavior disorders better so that she can better address them in the classroom. And the final problem that I see in this situation is that Carl's parents are very disengaged. This is probably part of the divorce, but Carl certainly needs some support, and is there any way we can get him and his family a little help? So my plan of action, number one, would be to determine the resources and the staff available to help Carl when he's removed from the classroom. First of all, who will remove him from the classroom? Again, seems as though everybody's busy all day, but when that is determined, then restraint training will be needed in order to safely remove him from the classroom. When he's removed, there will need to be a safe place for him to be, probably in the resource area with Ms. Green. I don't know if she will be working with anyone, but it needs to be at least in sight of an adult. And when he is removed, I would suggest the plan B that he continue to work on classroom behavior, so he's not using it as a avoidance behavior to get out of classroom behavior, that he would continue working on the same classroom work unless there is somebody available to work with him on some anger management. Another plan of action I would have is to identify resources available to provide counseling or help to Carl to help him with this behavior. Is there a counselor available to come work with him? I know in the state of Colorado there's some resources at the state level to help where staff and resources are limited as far as in the realm of autism. So is there something like this available where Carl is that might be able to help his school and district better deal with his behavior? My next plan of action after that would be to determine Ms. Taylor's need for training. First, I feel like she needs to understand why it's not appropriate to remove Carl from the classroom permanently and long term. So I would provide her some information on FAPE and least restrictive environment. I also would provide her with some training on dealing with behavior disorders. It's likely she's not encountered that before and isn't sure how to handle it and is reacting out of stress instead of lack of compassion or something like that. She probably just needs some tools in order to be able to deal with Carl better. I would finally provide a list of local resources for Carl's family. As an administrator, I have no control over whether or not his family will use these resources, but it would be helpful for them if they would. So in resolving these issues, did I do this based on what's best for students? So the removal from the classroom is dictated by his IEP, but there are problems regarding that as far as who will be responsible for him once he is removed. So it is in his best interest to be able to leave the classroom and cool off before coming back. And also the students in his class are spared from his behavior and were able to quickly focus back on what they were learning. If there is a possibility of in-school counseling or an intervention or resource for Carl, that would certainly be in his best interest to help prevent his violent behavior and help him also to better manage his emotions and hopefully not have to leave the classroom at all. I think in looking at training and support for Miss Taylor, I think it's in the kid's best interest that she better understand why Carl can't be removed from the classroom all day. And it will certainly be in his best interest and the other students' best interest for her to be able to better handle this situation when his behavior does start to escalate. Like I wrote, a less frustrated teacher will be better for students in general, and I think that this approach would help her to be more effective as a teacher. And then seeking the outside resources for Carl and his family. Obviously, Carl's getting some additional help outside of the school. He's going to better be able to focus and be a better student in the school. So this case study was very interesting. Certainly is not black and white. Very few things are in education. So a couple of things. I thought that when I first read it, Ms. Taylor probably doesn't have much experience with behavior disorders. Not a lot of teachers do, and you don't really feel the need until you encounter them. So I kind of felt like she probably hadn't encountered this before. I felt like Carl's parents were very absorbed in their divorce, and they didn't probably even realize he had a change in behavior, and certainly when confronted with it, didn't care. And I thought that Ms. Green was very wise in seeking counsel from people in authority above her to give her rookiness some strength. So I thought that was wise of her. I really felt a lot of sympathy and empathy in this situation. I felt sympathy for poor Carl and the situation he's in. He already had some behavior issues, and this chaos is not helping him. I felt empathy for Miss Taylor because I've had students that I wasn't ready for that had behavior disorders, and I did not know what to do. And I felt sympathy for Miss Green because she's so new, and the pretty well-liked teacher, she's filling the shoes, and that's hard to be in those situations and to do the right thing. In this situation, I felt like I valued the education and treatment of Carl and the education of their students above all. And I valued Miss Taylor's concerns for her safety. It is hard if you're not a classroom teacher to always empathize with what a classroom teacher is dealing with often feeling that they're just complaining or maybe not wanting to put the effort in that is expected. But it is a tough place to be. So I did have I valued her concerns, and I think that valuing others' concerns just forms a better relationship between classroom teacher and the administration. So there's some unresolved issues. Carl's turmoil, obviously at home, is unresolved, and not a whole lot I can do about that. But time will help to heal some of this hurt, and hopefully Carl will benefit from that. The limited resources of the district is still an unresolved issue. It's it's a rural district. I think they've been creative in how they've tried to problem solve that, but there may be other ways they can do that. And then I didn't address his behavior outside of the classroom in regards to rock throwing. The IEP was addressed specifically for the classroom behavior, so that would need to be resolved, especially if it continues. So looking through this whole case study, how did I promote academic success of students, the well-being of the students, and then increase instructional capacity? So as far as evidence of supporting academic success, I think by providing Carl a safe place to go and work on his academic work would promote his success academically, and it would help him not to miss much when he is removed. I think it also allowed Carl to be able to leave and hopefully regroup much more quickly and come back so that he's in the classroom and he's not missing as much. And then finally, I think that moving Carl from the classroom and supporting that, trying to problem solve that, was best for the rest of the students as well, so they're able to get back to learning as quickly as possible. And then the next section, supporting the well-being of every student. I think Carl being able to leave the classroom and go to a safe place or work with an interventionist is helpful for him to be able to refocus on what he needs to do, but also to learn to deal with his anger. I also think that often kids get in these situations are hard to get out of when they start exhibiting certain behaviors. And I think for him to be able to leave protects him from acting out further in front of his peers, and hopefully he can form better relationships or preserve his relationships with them. And then obviously the well-being of every student is evidenced by Carl leaving the classroom and to protect the students from any of his escalating violent behavior. And then the last category is enhancing instructional capacity. I felt that listening to and considering Ms. Taylor's concerns regarding Carl was very important. As I mentioned earlier, people perform better when they feel they are heard. Whether or not you agree with their solution or even their concerns, hearing them is very important to preserving a good working relationship. I think that allowing arranging for Carl to be removed from the classroom where he would go would allow Ms. Taylor to better focus on her instruction, and also getting Ms. Taylor some training would also help her to better manage her students in the classroom and be a better instructor overall. So in conclusion, this situation is unique as all of them are. Like I said at the beginning, not black and white by any stretch, but very gray. And a lot of judgment calls need to be made, but certainly following the law as far as Carl's IEP and protecting his rights as a student. I think overall, keeping the student's best interest in mind with their academic and well-being, and also the teacher's ability to instruct, is going to be always the best solution to any problem. So thank you for listening, and have a great day.